Hi, everyone. I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, good evening. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur, and you're tuned into the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Today is Friday, August 16th, 2024, and again, you're watching us here. And we've got a lot to share with you, but before I get into it, I want to tell you the title of tonight's show. Thanks so much for being here, whether you're with me live, whether you're watching a rebroadcast, or you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So the show topic for this Friday is Tech Titans and the Olympic drama. And believe me, there was a lot of drama, as we know, from the opening ceremonies to even the closing ceremonies. But the closing ceremonies didn't have as much debacle with religious attacks and cultural attacks. Unraveling the week's biggest stories. We're on Series 3 and Show 33. So first thing I want to talk about is, a wrap up of the Olympics because, the Olympics are over now, but it was challenging. So the Paris Olympics 2024 had a closing issue. But before I talk about that, French swimmer Leon Marchand took the Olympic flame from the cauldron during the closing ceremonies in Paris at the 2024 Olympic Games. And it's now on its way to where it'll be next, and you guys know where we're going to be. So the next Olympics will be in California. Yes, that's going to be the host city. Los Angeles, California, is going to host the Winter Olympics. I think that's kind of crazy because if we look at the temperature, the temps for LA, they are hot. I think the coldest they've seen during the day is like 71. That's hot for a, Winter Olympics. And, you've got to wear all this attire and stuff. I don't know how the heck they're going to have snow unless, I don't know. That's where they say they're having it. So it's going to be very interesting to see, what they do and what they're doing. But they're going to be building some venues so that they can have snow inside because obviously, they can't do skiing, outdoors. Like that's kind of impossible. All right. And more on the Olympics closing in case you guys are wondering. So the other thing about the Olympics, which is kind of interesting, is there were two issues. So before the actual closing, a few hours before the actual closing, there was some crazy guy that decided to climb the Eiffel Tower. And it had to be evacuated after this major security breach, hours, as I said, just before the closing of the Olympics in Paris. But, why did this guy climb the Eiffel Tower? They said that he wanted to show the Olympics crowd what he was made of. And as we saw this past weekend, which was just last week, prior to the Olympics closing ceremony, the press reports that the French police had evacuated the area after a man attempted to free solo climb a 1,083-foot tall tower just hours before the ceremony on Sunday. So he wanted to show the Olympics crowd what he was made of. All right, so I don't know. I think that's a little bit crazy. I don't know why, but that was they said that was his reason. And can you climb the Eiffel Tower for free? Well, keep in mind that you have to basically purchase a ticket to go up the stairs. So If you haven't purchased a ticket, you can do so at the ticket booth at the South Pillar. And so entering the Eiffel Tower is pretty easy. There's lavatories on all floors of the Eiffel Tower, which I never knew before, but there are restrooms on every floor of the Eiffel Tower. This is like a little bit crazy. So again, you can take the stairs to the bottom of the Eiffel Tower up to the second floor, and that means exactly 674 steps. In total, there are 1,665 steps from the bottom up to the top of the Eiffel Tower, but the stairway from the second floor to the top is not open to the public. So very, very interesting. I don't know. This is just a little bit nuts, if you ask me. That's the best way I can say this. So there was an issue with the closing ceremonies. It wasn't anything with religion or culture, anything like that, or mythology. The issue was that many people, as soon as the closing ceremonies had started, they were immediately on their phones, hashtagging things like closing ceremony, audio seems off, and noting the sound seems weird. One man even said that it sounds like a PA announcement. So what this tells me is that, obviously they spent a lot of money on the Olympics. I get it. But I think they really didn't vet these people well enough to make sure they had the skill. It's one thing to say that, you paint a house or you've done something, but it's another to actually vet them. And we had this happen in one of our community buildings that they were putting up in town. It was happening with an air conditioning company. So they had references for a, we'll call it a residential, but they didn't have references for commercial. They didn't check them. And needless to say, they failed their commercial inspection on this building. And now they're in the second time. And hopefully they'll get a CO soon. So I don't know, guys. Just a little bit crazy, if you ask me. So let's get right into the news now. The Olympics are closed. And, I do want to let you know something else that we just heard about the Olympics. Yes, Tom Daley announced his retirement. He is a English former diver, and he's a gold medalist in the men's synchronized 10-meter platform. So Tom Daley announced his retirement, and I think a lot of people were very surprised that he did that. To think about all this and to think about, what happened and why did he do this? So he won 5 medals and he went viral in the Paris Games, with his sideline knitting. He's retiring. And quote, he said, it was emotional at the end up there on the platform, knowing it was going to be my last competitive dive. He told Vogue in an interview published Monday. So he knew that, and I guess the way he did this, it was very interesting. This came out, I believe it was on August. It's actually on August 13th that they had capped this, and he announced he was retiring. So he knew when he was on the platform, a little sad, that he decided to retire. No one else knew, but he knew that moment, which was a little hard. And so Tom Daley has done quite a bit. It was emotional for him. And Tom Daley is 30 years young. He first began his Olympic career at age 14 in 2008 in Beijing Games. He was since awarded with 3 bronze medals, 1 gold medal, and most recently a silver in the men's 10-meter synchronized platform swimming. So the question you might be asking is, why did Tom Daley retire? Well, he claims that he wants to be with family. That's what he claims. I think, to be honest with you, I think that's not it, because his family was there all the time. I think it was just getting to be too much for him. I think he was doing a great job holding up the spirit and stuff like that. But I think, to be honest with you, I think this was starting to take a toll on his body. And I think he made the appropriate move to say, you know what? I want to keep my body intact. I don't want to give up anymore. So I want to just retire. He said, quote unquote, I want to be with my family. And although I understand that, I don't think that's really the reason that he retired. We're probably not going to know that. What is the real reason that he retired? I don't think we're going to learn the real reason, unfortunately. It's something that's emotional for him, and I have to say, it's coming down to it's a toll on him. But he knew when he was on that last dive, he knew. I got a lot of this suntan lotion actually in my eye here. Just going to get a paper towel here a second. Sorry about that, guys. But I keep rubbing my eyes. You can see if you're watching the cast. On the podcast, you're not noticing that. But I spray my face with this suntan lotion. And you know what happens? It eventually does drip back in your eyes at some point in the day. All right. So the thing is, Tom Daly really was an amazing, athlete. And he cried as he tried to explain why he had chosen to retire from the Olympics. Daly was asked about his retirement during a live interview at the BBC. Daly, who had won the medals, and partner Noah Williams in the men's synchronized 10-meter platform, said it's hard to talk about. It's always hard when you say goodbye to your sport. Crying, he said, there's are lots of things to process, and this year felt like such a bonus. I got to perform in front of my family and kids, and got to be a flag bearer, and my bucket list was ticked off on every occasion. So he did everything he wanted to do. It's sad. He gave us some amazing moments, which I think we're all going to be, grateful for. So I think that's the most important thing I want to say about that. But getting more into, what happened, I think he realized that, you can't do that forever. And he might have realized that he didn't want to go down a path. Maybe something wasn't exactly correct. We're not going to know that truth. But if I had to tell you the reason he stopped, it wasn't because he wanted to be with his family. I think the real reason he stopped is he started to realize that maybe he wasn't doing that dive exactly the way he wanted to, or maybe something started to hurt, or maybe it was minor. He said, you know what? I probably should just stop this. And that's the reason, but we're not going to know that true reason. All right. So in other news, Apple updates the European Union App Store policies after a commission probe. Now, this is kind of interesting if you ask me. Apple revised its European Union App Store policies following its investigation by the European Commission, and the changes include adjustments to rules on the app distribution and in-app purchases to address competition concerns and regulatory requirements, and the modifications aim to enhance transparency and provide developers with more flexibility in how they operate within the App Store ecosystem. The move is supposedly reflecting Apple's efforts to comply with the European Union's regulations and improve its market practices. So, the European Union, they don't fool around. Delta, they had enough. Delta's got a $500 million cyber crisis lawsuit targeting CrowdStrike and Microsoft. I mean, they had enough. Delta Airlines is suing CrowdStrike and Microsoft after a global cyber outage last month that led to the cancellation of approximately, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, 7,000, let me say that again, 7,000 flights, and a financial impact of at least $500 million. The outage triggered by a problematic software update from quote-unquote CrowdStrike, which you will never catch me ever using or selling or recommending, severely disrupted Delta's operations, which persisted longer than at any other airline. Delta claims the tech firms failed to deliver adequate service and is seeking compensation for the extensive operational and financial losses incurred. So we already know that CrowdStrike's going to lose their reputation. They're already losing it. Their stock's going down. We'll talk more about that. But I think the big thing is that the people who started who started CrowdStrike. You're probably wondering, CrowdStrike was started by employees of McAfee. So that's a pretty interesting thing. And so CrowdStrike CEO was working for McAfee in 2010, and there was a global tech outage too back then, George Kurtz. But if you look at his picture, he's not very happy. He's under the spotlight for a massive tech failure, and a faulty update from the CrowdStrike caused a worldwide debacle that disrupted banks, airlines, retailers, hospitals. And the thing is, this isn't Kurtz's first rodeo with a tech catastrophe. So I've got to say that if you've been in this before, you should know. From 2009 to 2011, Kurtz was the customer-facing field chief technology officer, the FCTO at McAfee, and another major name in the cybersecurity industry. I didn't like them. I thought they used a lot of resources. I quickly threw them out. Them and Norton, I threw them out immediately. In 2010, McAfee released a flawed update that mistakenly identified a critical Windows file service host as a virus. And the critical error crashed millions of computers and got them stuck in reboot loops. So I think maybe what he learned, he took with him, but he didn't learn from the mistake. And my feeling is that he may not be the appropriate person to lead that company because he's too green. That's the bottom line there. All right. How would you like to be stranded up in space? Well, yeah, stranded astronauts face potential 2025 return after a simple 8-day standard mission. This is crazy. Astronauts Barry Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who embarked on a test mission in the International Space Station on June 5th, may remain up there until 2025 due to issues with their Boeing Starliner spacecraft. Initially, they were supposed to come home after the 8-day mission, and they now face the prospect of staying there possibly over 8 months due to delays and technical problems. Now, NASA is considering an alternative plan, including a potential return from a SpaceX Crew Dragon mission. We all know that's going to cost a few pennies. I don't know. I think that these companies, I think they don't do their due diligence. They don't CYA, right? And I feel that if they were on that, they would be doing it better. It's like, I don't say they don't care, but it's like they feel it's money they shouldn't spend. And here's what I'm happy to hear. Google monopoly ruling, potential impact on all of us, okay? So I've told you my stories about Google and how they've been very deceitful. A recent U.S. court ruling from the Google guilty of illegally monopolizing online search and related advertising leads to potential major changes for the tech giant. And remedies could include structural relief, such as breaking up the company or enforcing changes in business practices. Yes, yes, yes. Well, because, they keep thinking they're like God, like they're like the be-all, end-all. They're Google. Like, who cares? Like, they're a search engine. I mean, come on. They're not the world. And they let it go to their heads. And although any resolution may take years, possible outcomes could range from altering Google's default search engine arrangements, yes, to more drastic measures like a breakup with ongoing appeals likely to shape the final outcome. And the thing that really gets me about Google, and I've said this before, guys, we decided as a tech company that we were going to hire Google because we figured, well, gee, we'll put the money in and we're going to hire Google to get us up to the top quick, like just get up there. And so we contracted with them, and they were arrogant and just so like rude and unpleasant to deal with. So you got a call with somebody and he says, are you willing to do this? Are you willing to spend at least this? I said, yes, yes, yes. Then they get in touch with somebody else and it's like, then we weren't getting any hits after a while. So I talked to somebody. They couldn't even spell the darn town Franklin Lakes right. They put the town Franklin Town. There is a town called Franklin, not Franklin Town, but Franklin. So I'm like, come on, right? Like, this is crazy. And so I talked with this one gentleman. I said, you really don't know what you're doing. And then they make it so hard to get in contact with them. And plus, not only that, they're very good at hiding, so you can't get back to them. And the people I'm talking to don't even work for Google. They are contracted by some people that are outsourced in another country. So I have lost my respect for Google. And I think they're just a money grabbing, grubbing engine. And they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about our world. All they care about is their big pockets. But I got news for you. They better open up wide, because the government's coming in to take quite a bit of their money. I think it's taken a while, but I think Google's going to start getting some payback. We always say karma pays back. And trust me, Google's going to pay big time. All right. So the UK government shelves a $1.3 billion tech and AI plan project. This is pretty interesting because, when you think about all the things that are going on, this is crazy. The new Labour government has put on hold a $1.3 billion in funding for the tech and AI projects that were previously promised by the Conservatives, and includes an £800 million project for an exascale computer at the Edinburgh University and a £500 million for AI research resources. Critics argue that this decision could hinder the UK's technological progress and drive entrepreneurs abroad, while the government defends the move as necessary for economic stability. We'll have to see, guys. I don't know. The UK had fell behind before. If they do this, they could fall behind before they have a chance to catch up, and that could be a big problem. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but there were AI hunting cyberbullies at the 2024 Paris Olympics. I know we're kind of done with the Olympics, but this kind of, because the way we work is the stories kind of come from the last part of the week, so we wrap everything up. And so for the Paris 2024 Olympics, the IOC was using AI to combat online abuse directed at athletes. It's an AI system, threat matrix, that scans social media posts in over 35 languages to identify and address harmful content that could be present before it reaches athletes. And the initiatives aim to protect athletes' mental health amid high-pressure environments of the games, reflecting a broader effort to improve support and safeties in the sport. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think they were doing a lot of things. My only concern is, where's that AI data going? Like, is it going anywhere besides just that? Do they throw it out? I don't know. I'd also like to know more about who put the AI thing in place. Who's responsible for its data now that it's finished? Like, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to just use it to next Olympics? Or, like, who owns that data? I don't know. We'll have to see. These are all encouraging questions, right, that minds want to know. A study reveals that major issues with 20,000 EV charging stations is present. Yeah. So an extensive study, as I said, of the 20,000 electric vehicle charging stations highlights several issues with the current infrastructures. Key problems such as broken stalls, inaccurate status reports, unreliable network providers, and the uptime's actual rate for the chargers is significantly lower, and reported with 26% of stations showing discrepancies between perceived and actual status. Now, the study identifies various types of problematic stations such as ghost and zombie chargers, and notes significant regional variations in charger reliability. Solutions proposed include improved software interoperability and better network data sharing. I've said this before, ladies and gentlemen, we are not ready to go to electric vehicles. The infrastructure can't support it right now. The technology is not sound enough. And this is proof right here. And the government wants to go that way because, let's face it, they're going to get some big payoffs if they do. But it may not be the greatest thing for the country and all the citizens that live in it. So, a little bit crazy. So again, I know the Olympics is over, but the French Museum network was hit by a ransomware during the Olympics. Now, this is pretty amazing. Of course, there were no disruptions that were reported to the Olympics while they were there or operating. So the ransomware attack affected the central data systems of Paris Grand Palais and other museums in the Réunion des Musées National network. And despite the breach, there were no disruptions, as I said, that were reported at the Summer Olympics events at the venues. So the Grand Palais, the Chateau de Versailles, are still operating with all Olympic competitions, including fencing, taekwondo, and equestrian sports. The Paris prosecutor's office is currently still investigating the attack, focusing on securing and restoring the impacted systems. Yeah, so it sounds to me like they really didn't have a good threat mitigation system in to really catch that, because if they did, they would have been alerted of this, and they were just caught like with their pants down. Like, that's just terrible. And imagine this, ladies and gentlemen. MIT now has a robot that can peel squash with human-like dexterity. That's not an easy thing to do. We take it for granted because we can do it with our hands, right? Researchers at the MIT, they developed this robot capable of peeling vegetables with human-like dexterity. So the robot uses one hand to rotate the produce and the other hand to peel it. A complex task for machines, but pretty easy for humans. Despite the advanced capabilities, the robot struggles with smaller irregularity-shaped vegetables like ginger. While its precise manipulation is promising for manufacturing applications, it's unlikely to replace existing vegetable peelers in industrial settings. So guess what? Those of you that peel vegetables, well, you're going to have a job, and don't worry about losing that job. Anyway, the nations enact a mysterious export controls on quantum technology. What the heck is this all about? This seems so bizarre. So many countries have imposed identical export controls on quantum computers following secret international discussions. But the scientific rationale behind these regulations is still kept under wraps. Although quantum computers could theoretically break encryption, current models are way too limited and error-prone to pose even a slight threat. So, for instance, the UK restricts the export of quantum computers with 34 or more qubits, but the precise reasoning for these limits is classified under what they claim is national security. You see, I think sometimes these people have these things. You know why? Because they don't know it. So I figure if they don't know it, well, then they can just, put some rule that protects them from having to disclose it. And ladies and gentlemen, ChatGPT and other AI systems, well, this is the real issue. Computer viruses using ChatGPT to write sneaky emails. This is really bad. So researchers have discovered that computer viruses can exploit ChatGPT to enhance their malicious capabilities. By using ChatGPT to rewrite their code, generate convincing email replies, the viruses can evade detection and spread through email attachments quite easily. The misuse of large language models, the LLMs, highlight potential security risks as they now produce both human-like text and complex code. So not only are we trying to confuse people, but we're also trying to confuse the computer. That's pretty scary. And I've said to you guys before, it's not a question of whether AI is good or bad, because nothing is good or bad. It's how we choose to use it that makes it so. All right, and AI turns text language into a real mess, what we call an unintelligible reading, basically. So when we think about this is really, really cool, because you think that it could do it, but it just can't yet. The AI models were designed to translate text into sign language, have shown some progress, but they're currently being scrutinized for producing translations that are so off that they don't even have a slight resemblance of making anything intelligible. So researchers and experts in the deaf culture suggest that while the technology is in what we call the experimental phase, it has yet to achieve enough accuracy and clear translations that they'll trust it. The AI's potential is recognized, but it remains a work in progress with significant improvements needed before it can effectively serve the deaf community. And I don't think they were trying to get it to serve the deaf community immediately. I think they were just trying to get a buy-in, which between you and I think it's very hard to get a buy-in, whether you're talking about, a phone or you're talking about a computer. I think buy-ins are something that people want, because when you get a buy-in, other people feel comfortable and now they're going to buy it. They buy it, the stock goes up, and all the other kind of great stuff, right? So we haven't talked about police in a while, but this is an interesting story. The Dutch police test an AI-powered robot dog for drug lab inspections. This is kind of cool. So the Dutch police are trialing an AI-powered robot dog to safely inspect drug labs. From who else do you think it's from? Well, it's an autonomous robot dog, and you know who makes those for quite a while? Boston Dynamics. And it's being used to inspect drug labs during raids. Now, this AI-powered robot is basically under the premise to minimize risks to officers from hazardous chemicals and potential explosions. With successful trials, the robot will be used in actual raids, reflecting advancements in robotic technology for complex law enforcement tasks. So we are not yet at the point where we're rolling these out into tasks that are real live adventures. We're not there yet, guys. We are just not there. And as I said to you guys, the Paris Olympics closing ceremony faced audio issues. You had the Eiffel Tower, it got evacuated. If we had to rate, did Paris do a good job with the Olympics? Well, I think they really tried. And I don't mean racking up medals. With being a host is what I should say. Did you know that to host the Olympics, in Paris, costed them about $8.2 billion? That's a lot. Were the Olympics a success? Well, they had 15 days of Paris Games. They closed at the Stade de Francais, and they say they owe their success to the tireless work of the organizers and their crazy visions and mobilizations of thousands of volunteers. I think what I would recommend, if we can give France some constructive feedback, is that when you create things like an opening or a closing ceremony, you got to make sure that it does not rustle feathers from people. I mean, just holding up a finger, which we might think is fine in this country, could mean something totally bad in another. And they claim it was not the premise to do that. I don't know. A lot of people did not like the Paris Olympics. They had the scent of adventure, and it kind of twined with the aroma of the 3-day, what they called old socks, is what some people said. And the thing about it is that Paris, the City of Lights, and the what they called slightly suspicious odors, were the Summer Olympics was welcome as they said a can of sardines, quote unquote, at a perfume convention. So it's very interesting that people didn't think it was welcome. Parisian cheese shops, while a delight to the palate, emit aroma that can only be described as aggressively French. Picture athletes trying to set world records where their noses are assaulted by the ghostly remnants of 100 brie wheels and rogue Cabernet. So I think the issue is, if we had to ask, what mistakes did Paris make in hosting the Olympics? And I don't think anybody wants to talk about it, but we really got to think about it. The government has denied the move had any correlation with the Olympics. The event seemed to be off to a weak start when the opening ceremony was kind of marked by heavy rains and the out of sync filming and the controversial acts that happened and the parody, which we had titled The Last Supper. I don't know. I think that more should have been reviewed. I was more impressed with China and Japan when they did the Olympics. And so if we had to list, so what are the top things that Paris did wrong during the Olympics for hosting? What do you think they are? Well, one, they have an attitude, right? I think the biggest issue is that some people believe they were welcoming. I know when I went to Paris, I didn't find myself being welcomed. I'm not French. There were lots of controversies. Okay. Athletes, unfortunately, were not on their best behavior while outside the Olympic Village. In fact, they got arrested. Now, the thing is this. So, if you got an Olympic game, right? I mean, you really want to try to break bread with people and try not to arrest them. A member of the Australian Olympic field hockey team was taken to custody in Paris after trying to buy cocaine. So, what should happen is, I think they should give them a warning. I think they should have, did something and made it very clear that if this happens again, they did it once. I think they should have given them a strong warning because I'm not saying it's a right thing that they did it. The Paris prosecutor's office said in a statement that the police interrupted a drug transaction outside a building in the ninth area of the Paris overnight. And they said the investigation has been turned over to police anti-drug unit for investigation. So Tom Craig apologized for the terrible mistake. He said, and I quote, "I would first like to apologize for what has occurred over the last 24 hours. Craig said, according to the Australian Associated Press, I made a terrible mistake and I take full responsibility for my actions. My actions are my own and by no way reflect the values of my family, my teammates, my friends, the sport, and the Australian Olympic team. I've embarrassed you all and I'm truly sorry." I think that was remarkable. After making the statement, Craig was escorted away by the Australian Olympic Committee official without taking questions. The Australian Olympic Committee later released a statement from team leader Anna Mears saying Craig had lost his Olympic privileges and had been moved out of the athletes' village. Additionally, Egypt's Olympic Committee says that Tokyo bronze medal winner wrestler Mohammed Ibn Al-Sayed will be investigated by the sports governing body for allegedly basically a groping incident in Paris. French prosecutors said that it had arrested a 26-year-old Olympic wrestler from Egypt on sexual assault charges. The athlete, who was not named by prosecutors, was detained early Friday that day after allegedly groping a woman from behind outside a Paris cafe, according to a statement. Now, the thing is, did they really do that, or were they just looking to get us in trouble? I know because I did some pre-law, and some people just try to be troublemakers. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about French, but I know that they want to make trouble. They want us out. We are not welcome there. It's a place I don't want to go back to. I love lots of places in Europe, but I did not enjoy Paris. They had another deal, was a rumored porn deal. France's Anthony Amirati made himself a name at the Olympic debut in Paris, just not for a medal. The 20-year-old Frenchman took the internet by storm when an incidental crossbar crotch clip cost him a shot at the podium. And he got pitched a sizable payday from an adult entertainment company for a video workout minus the bar, according to TMZ. So, again, incidental. And if we look at the word, what is incidental? Incidental is accompanying but not a major part of something, liable to happen as a consequence as an activity. And again, it took everyone by storm when the incidental crossbar crotch clip cost him a shot at the podium. That's something that I think, the International Olympics Committee said, this is not something we can tolerate. So I think it's really good. The fact that a porn company went after him, I think that's just terrible. And then Algerian boxer Imain Khalif, whose name vaulted in the top of Google searches not too long ago after a 46-second bout raised gender test issues. he stayed atop of global headlines as she dominated 2 more matches to advance to the final. Khalif hasn't seen a point scored against her yet in these Paris games ahead of the final. Khalif was disqualified from the 2023 World Championships after failing an unspecified gender eligibility test. So, and IBA Russian President Amar Kremlev claimed that the DNA test results showed the 2 athletes have XY chromosomes, citing it as the reason they were disqualified in the World Championship. The IBA also cited high levels of testosterone in Khalif's system. However, the test results were never published by Khalif and had never been disclosed in her biological markers, calling the decision a big conspiracy. So there were lots of issues. And, we know about the scandalous last summer. Before the games even officially started, the Olympic organizers were already dealing with controversy, and C-Spire pulled out. So I think what needs to happen in the future is that there needs to be more control. There needs to be more review. I didn't see that. I think Paris was arrogant. I don't think we're going to have this issue in Los Angeles. I think they're all going to be a lot more tight. I don't blame the IOC because I don't think it was their fault. But now I think the IOC is going to become more intertwined in what's going on and less trusting. And I think, unfortunately, that's what has to happen. This is not a place to make an example of something so somebody can go get some big debut on a show. I mean, that's not what the Olympics is about, other than it having to do with sports. I mean, some of these people, the way they were and even the way they were dressed and things like this, they were not conducting themselves, without going into all the details, in appropriate manner. If something was not on track, then they should have dealt with that before the competition. And I think the problem here is that a lot of the people, they didn't know how to control themselves. I think that was the biggest issue that I saw. But there were many issues in the France Olympics. I think some that are going to be talked about for maybe years, maybe decades. I don't know, guys. I just have this whole thing that the Olympics is it's meant to give people a chance to compete. And I think, to be honest with you, with what happened there, I think this should take them out of the running for doing the Olympics for a long time. I know that they were working very hard, making sure security was right, but I just felt that the French police, the consulates, I just felt that they were out to get people. Do you believe me on that? That that the French police were just out to get the athletes. It's crazy, but I do believe that they have a jealousy of the people that competed. And I think that if we don't get this story straight, I think this could leave a bad, a big problem. The French police, are winning all kinds of awards now because of the high risk Olympics and what they did. I think they did a great job in keeping everybody safe, but I do believe that they were ready for something. They were just suspecting you were going to do something wrong before you did it. I think that's a big problem. Okay, a big problem. And I think it's great that, France spent this money, but France did a lot wrong at the Olympics as a host. And the reason I say this to you is I didn't even watch it that much, but when I was just reading all these headlines, you know, um, to me, it's a challenge. Okay. They knew that they were going to be in lots of challenges. Okay. Um, and hopefully they're able to recover from this. Nobody got fines or anything from anything that happened in the ceremonies, right? I think the goal was to keep it safe, but I think the French police, not so much by the police, but by order of whoever runs them, the head police, or by the what do they have in France? They don't have have a president in France. They have basically they have like their what's his name, the head the head similar to president in France. I'm trying to remember what they call it now. The prime minister. And I feel that they were doing the Olympics, they won it and all that, like, they got the bid, but I just feel that everyone there was unwelcome from the time that we got there. That's why I would have never went to France, even for the Olympics. I'm thinking about going to Los Angeles though for the Winter Olympics. I just feel that they look for trouble. And a lot of these people, I get that they weren't in their best behavior. I get that. What probably should have happened is say, hey, buddy, look, I'm just going to give you a warning here. You're in the Olympics. You're doing cocaine. And I got to tell you something. I want you to just, return, like, this whole thing that you're doing, right now, we're going to overlook this. Okay. And we're going to give this a warning to you, but we're going to note it, because if we submit a report to you, you could be out of the Olympics. I think they didn't really understand. I mean, you've got kids in the Olympics and they don't really understand not only the consequences, but even the fact, like with Grindr and stuff, how they were doing things to make sure that people didn't get pulled into their country prematurely for being outed because it's not allowed in their country. I think that was a very big thing. There are many countries where it is illegal to be gay. And I think there's 71 countries it is considered illegal. You could go to jail for it. That's crazy. Okay. But that's why companies like Grindr was doing this. I just feel that what should have happened, and I know you're probably saying, John, this is like babysitting, but I really think what should have happened is I think they should have had babysitting on the village. I know you're saying, John, they shouldn't because but when you got this kind of like reputation, there's got to be a watchdog. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be a watchdog. There has to be. So if I'm from this country and I'm on this team, there is always somebody that's going to follow to make sure I don't get in trouble. Maybe if somebody was there following and said, well, he never touched her, maybe that would have never gone anywhere. We know that they just like to cause problems. We know from history that the French like to make stories to claim people did things they didn't. I mean, it's cliche, right? they're just not friendly. That's the best thing I tell you. So I think in the future there should be like a watchdog. You know, just like you have that person there that checks in on them. We know that whenever they had to do their random checks, not only were they doing blood draws and stuff, and they were doing that with them, but they were literally, passing urine, and they had to watch them literally pass the urine. So if they're doing that, then why aren't we making sure that people are there so they don't get into trouble? I mean, I think that's something that the host company should do from each country, because if you're concerned or you have some people that you think could be an issue, then you should have somebody there. That's very, very important. And they shouldn't be allowed to go out alone. They should have a buddy, but they should always have tails, because, I mean, they're in Olympics. I get that they're not in a prison or anything, but they really should understand that it's not just their lives they're throwing away. They're throwing away their whole country's reputation. And that's a big thing, because, hey, if Australia, this happened, they took him right off and they exported him. We don't know what's going to happen. So I think the fact that what happened with this Olympics, I think it was the most unprofessional, very, I'm going to say, unmature. Even though I didn't watch it, from the clips and what I've seen, it was immature. It's very immature. And I think that part of being in the Olympics should be that you've got to be mature enough to be in it. And just because you have the skills doesn't mean that you're going to be the one that should go. So I think that's something that should happen. But I do think a watchdog system should be in place, because especially in France, I just think that they never had this anywhere. We didn't have this in England. So I got to believe that a lot of this stuff, I mean, yes, the cocaine, I get that happened, but I don't know if the groping thing was really legitimate. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see. Ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am by now. If you don't, I'm going to tell you. I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It has been an amazing privilege, pleasure, and honor to be with you this fantastic Friday. I hope you've enjoyed the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Of course, we'll have more shows for you next Friday. The next JMOR Tech Talk Show will be on August 23rd, and we'll have more. But you know how we do this. Starting on Monday, we actually start with a brand new set of topics that go through till Sunday, and then on the Friday of that week, I cover that whole, even through Sunday, the Saturday and Sunday, I cover that on the show. I hope you guys love the new format. Do check out BelieveMeAchieve.com. Check out all my other great content. I'll be so grateful for you to do that. Follow me. And I hope that this content just makes your life a little brighter, a little happier, and it helps you to become a better version of yourself. And I'm going to see you guys when? I'll see you guys next week if I don't see you on one of my other shows. Take care, everyone.